Well, welcome back to another edition, a first real edition of Inside BBI after the Giants win a game.
Are you ready? Let's rip off these shirts. Let's go.
In the NFC East, something we have not been a part of in quite a while if you just get Washington. I'm John McDevitt. With me, as always, senior editor of Big Blue Interactive, Mr. Eric Kennedy. And Eric, this came out of nowhere, to be quite honest, the way that game went. It could have been a weird thing, maybe a fumble and then a return, touchdown, and who knows what. This was a game that the Giants played from beginning to end. They held on. They really, I thought, put their foot down, the stamp on the game in the second half. This was just one of the best games I've seen them play in a very long time.
Yeah, it had to be the biggest one they've had since 2022. It has to be, right?
Oh, has to
Easily.
be. Without doubt.
Easily. And looking back at 2022, maybe it's bigger than games in 2020. Who knows? Anyways, the thing that was really cool about, and we'll get on all of this, was didn't you kind of think when the Eagles scored 2 touchdowns in a row, here we go again? Like this was here, and then they said no.
It had that weird feeling like you were like, oh, crap, are we going to do well? You know what, really, the part that started, and I don't know if anybody else felt this way, but where the shine just sort of dimmed for just instantly was we score the second touchdown, and I watched it on the first PAT. We were a little close to on the screen to the left upright, and I'm like, okay. And then this one he missed. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. It's like the gift, here's your gift. Right. We're going to take it back. We're going to take it back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the 2 touchdowns had me worried. And then to see the Giants offense come right back down and say, you know what? No, I don't think so. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, we have so much to talk about, but Jaxson Dart and Cam Skattebo the two of them have changed the culture of this team completely. And they put I hope everyone saw the post-game stuff because that was out of hand. I thought that was awesome. But they've basically, just think of it. These 2 young rookies have come in here. And again, this is not, I don't mean to disrespect the veterans on this team, but let's be realistic here. They've changed the culture on this team. And we'll have to see. Look, one thing that you and I have been guilty of, along with most other fans, is we keep overreacting to wins and losses. So we've overreacted to the Chargers. We overreacted to the Saints. We're probably going to overreact to this game. So maybe we're going to enjoy this. This is going to be a victory lap right now because we don't get too many of these, but let's not start thinking Super Bowl and shit like that.
No. And I don't think we've ever done that. Yeah. And I'll be quite honest, I actually don't feel bad about the way we reacted to the Chargers game. And to be quite frank, to be very upset with the last game. Now, I didn't put doom and gloom like this team just sucks. They just made a bunch of bad plays and it got out of hand. And it was like, oh God, you gave a game away you should have won. But this is now 3 games in a row. I can't remember when. If you can pull it off the top of your head, you're better than I am at it. I cannot remember when the last time the Giants scored on their opening drive, 3 consecutive games in a row. That is something we have not seen. Hell, we haven't seen them score in a first drive in a game, 3 games in a single season in forever, let alone 3 in a row.
Someone will have to fact check this. My daughter sent a text to my wife a couple hours ago and said, the last time the Giants won a Thursday night game, Jaxson Dart was 12 years old. So I don't know. I don't know if that's true, but it feels true. So maybe somebody can fact check that for us. I didn't have time to look that up. I don't know where she got it, but she sent it to my wife, who gave it to me. It feels right, but that's pretty.
I mean, that at least under the Dayball piece, I think we had 2 games in a row. I believe in 23, but I think it was on the back half of 23. So I don't even think we did it in 22. So this is really, to go 3 in a row. And let's also talk too. These aren't like a broken tackle, 70-yard touchdown, and we're like, oh, we scored. These are drives down the field. These are multiple plays put together. The first drive alone, the Giants had to convert a 3rd and 12, and they throw a long pass to Little Jordan Humphrey, who goes up and gets the ball. And right then you just had a feeling, you're like, you know what? This game might be a little different than a lot of people thought.
Well, let's step back. I think you and I are both so we're kind of winging it right now because we're still sort of I'm on 2.5 hours of sleep.
There you go.
But Jaxson Dart outplayed Jalen Hurts. Jalen
Sure.
Hurts has a better team around him. He's got better wide receivers. Now we can get into Barkley versus Skattebo. That might be a controversial topic, but he's got a better team around him. And Jaxson Dart, certainly at wide receiver, and Jaxson Dart outplayed, even though the numbers don't look at, other than, there's the interception. Jaxson, I felt outplayed Jalen. Even last night, Cy tweeted out at some point last night, he said, is Jalen Hurts the fourth best quarterback in the NFC East now? And I thought, whoa, he might be right. So again, we're jumping the gun here, but I said earlier this week or last week, I'm not sure. Again, 2.5 hours of sleep. That Dart's starting to look like a quarterback in the draft. And again, it's still early, but I'm feeling more confident as we go along here. And I thought this game, he had the running. He didn't have the turnovers that he had last week. And he made more high-level throws, even on incomplete passes and the pass interference. He made some really, really good throws. Let's be honest, this wide receiver course sucks right now. And it's just the bad news is Malik Neighbors is still out, or we might be even more excited than we are. But the fact that a practice squad player, like you said, was the 3rd and 12 recipient of getting this thing going is pretty funny. I mean, even the guys announcing the game were like, he just came off the practice squad. So, and you know what? Somebody said on BBI, I apologize who said this. Somebody said, I think, or maybe it was somebody on Twitter. So I think Jaxson does better with bigger wide receivers. So I would like to get more size in the room next year. That's what she said.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Totally was not ready for that.
I'd like to get bigger wide receivers for Jaxson, because I think that fits his game. That doesn't mean he can't have the Malik Neighbors and the Wandells, but I'd like to get a big wide receiver to go along with him and the rest of the wide receiving core.
So before we hit on some very specifics about the team and the roster and stuff, let's stick just to the game.
Yeah.
I don't. Yes, I do. I will. I want to kind of just, beat my own drum just for a second here. So the week before, I kind of called out what I thought what they should do, and early on in the game, they did exactly what I had said. They went up tempo. They used the tight ends, multiple tight ends versus trying to get all the receivers into the game. They basically did a lot of what I called out, and then he kind of got away from it later in the second half. This game, which I made a little quick video that I threw out there, I said, if the Giants are to win, this is what they have to do. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I said is don't go up tempo, which they really did not do that much last night at all. Get into the huddle, switch guys in and out constantly, bring in multiple tight ends, change the tight ends out, go with two backs, change who they are in the backfield together. The Giants did that a lot last night. They went with two tight ends on the field. They went with two backs in the field. There were times when little Jordan Humphrey was the only wide receiver out on the field at that time. So you had a much bigger lineup. They were moving guys around. They would run the same plays, but run them with different formations and packages. So you would see some inside handoffs that were actually run just with different setups, but it was the same play. It was very interesting to see how well that Dart does in those situations when they're dictating what they want to do. And it gets out of hand a little bit if they get that weird sort of one run for 2 yards, and then they go to do something else, and then it's third. But he was managing the third downs quite effectively last night too. You called out something else about the fact that Dart actually made a number of really nice passes. The one that really stands out to me that would have changed the dynamics of his stats. One was early in the third quarter. Giants get the ball. They have a third down. I believe it's 3rd and 3. They call kind of a fake handoff in the middle. The Eagles are bringing pressure. He throws the pass down the middle of the field. Theo Johnson has the ball in his hands.
Right.
He drops it going down.
Right.
It's not a simple catch. Obviously, it's contested, but he had it in both hands.
Nice throw, really nice throw.
A beautiful throw, right where it needed to be, and that's one of those ones that really could have been a dagger into the Eagles right there in the third quarter. The Giants' drive would have continued. They had already taken the lead at the end of the second quarter. Eagles totally blow their drive, which we could talk about that in a little bit. That play could have really put a dagger early. They ended up having to punt. there's the pass that he throws in the end zone in the red zone to little Jordan Humphrey,
Mm-hmm.
who he drops it. I mean, that's a touchdown. Cam Skattebo wouldn't have 3 touchdowns if little Jordan Humphrey catches that one. That's Dart's second touchdown of the game, 1 running, 1 passing. That would have been huge right there. Either way, we scored. But Dart's stats were just Jalen Hyatt dropped the one that would have given the Giants, I believe, 3rd and 2. And they dropped it, so then they had to do the next play from there. And I think, if I remember correctly, that may or may not be the next play or the second play after that where he gets hurt. But either way, he was in really good command. I thought his best throw of the night was the blitz that came through, that he stood in there on a 3rd down pass that he completes to Theo Johnson. If you go back and look from behind, Bellinger's right in front. There's a cover man in Bellinger. He puts it right over the top of Bellinger, right into that was a great pass.
Yeah. And the throwing is what's starting to catch up. And again, what have we talked about? It's going to be peaks and valleys, but hopefully it's trending up. So if you take away the turnovers from Skattebo and Jaxson Dart and Slayton last week, we probably win that game. But this was a cleaner game, but his passing was better. But what I liked about his games, again, is his feet too. He's got this sixth sense of, he doesn't really. So it's kind of weird. It's kind of hard to describe, because sometimes he does get a little fidgety and maybe he can stay in the pocket, but he has a good sense of like moving around and not taking his eyes off of downfield. And he did it again on the Wan'Dale Robinson touchdown. Again, he started scrambling all around. And a lot of times when a quarterback does that, the quarterback no longer is looking to throw the football in that situation. They're either looking to throw it away or looking to run, take off and run. But he starts moving to his left, coming back to the right. And it's a little bit, not the same, but a little bit reminiscent of that. Remember that gunner play that you talked about in the preseason where all of a sudden he throws, it wasn't kind of that, but it was a little bit like that in the sense that he didn't take off. He threw. And then, of course, we saw Wan'Dale, and you jinxed him in a good way, because you said if Wan'Dale gets touched, he immediately falls down.
Usually goes down.
He didn't do it on that play. That play was awesome. And throughout the night, Jaxson had these crazy runs that usually we see, we never really see from Giants quarterbacks. Maybe the Fran Tarkenton years. That's even before me. Maybe, in that sense, but you don't normally see. It was almost like, people don't take this the wrong way, but it was almost like Tony Romo or Patrick Mahomes sometimes. You know how, like, you think you got them, you think they're dead, and they keep the play alive. And that used to, and I know Romo's never won anything, but Romo used to piss me off because you thought you had him and he was still moving around and scrambling and throwing the football. And Patrick Mahomes obviously does that too. And the thing with all three of those guys, they're not the best athletes in the world, but somehow they make more athletic guys miss. Like the linebacker on Dart's touchdown run, he made the linebacker, and I think that's their top
Bond.
line. Yeah,
that's Bond.
He made him look ridiculous. He shouldn't have, because he's not Michael Vick out there. He's not Cunningham, but he made him look ridiculous.
What did they call him? Vanilla Vick?
Vanilla Vick.
Vanilla Vick.
I think who called him that?
Cordell Flott. Well, Cordell called. Oh, you're right. It was Wan'Dale. You're right. I had the wrong guy. Did you, by the way, real quick, since we're there, when they were doing interviews in the locker room, did you catch the one? They're talking to Skattebo. So he's shirtless. So it was after he had already done the outside stuff.
I missed that. I was so tired last night.
So he's doing a bunch of interviews, and Paul Dottino is the first one is asking questions. And what he starts with, he goes, "You guys have had problems in the red zone. You struggled in the red zone, and last week, and then coming in, it goes, wait, hold up. He goes, we didn't struggle in the red zone. We turned the ball over. He goes, we were fine in the red zone. We just turned the ball over. I thought that was an interesting point. He goes, you know what? He goes, because in the red zone, he goes, we've got the red zone fixed. And if you think about it, from the Charger game to the Saints game minus the turnovers outside, they went right down and scored when they got inside the red zone, to this game, and they were 3 for 3 in this one of being in the red zone and scoring. This team is it is way different now with the playbook with Dart than it was with Wilson. That's not a shot at Wilson per se. It is literally to say, I think all along, if Jaxson Dart had been the quarterback, you go back to, even game one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that they win game one, but I certainly think the outcome is slightly different than it was. But I think we are 2-3 wins easily with a team where you're feeling really good about it than 2 wins with a couple losses already that you're like, well, we didn't look so good earlier on. He brings just something different, and I think the team as a whole plays differently knowing that he's their quarterback.
This is a big deal. We can't get too far ahead of ourselves. I don't want to. We all got battle scars for being Giants fans for so long with injuries and disappointments and stuff like that. But if the Giants got their franchise quarterback, like at what was pick 24, 25, whatever they picked, when they traded up.
Right.
They got the franchise quarterback at that pick, and this is going to be their guy. Again, like I said the last show, even if you hate Brian Daboll with a passion, his greatest legacy here is going to be he's going to be bringing Dart in here. Because again, you and I have said this. We don't know if it's true, but we suspect it's true. Dart's not here if Brian Daboll's not the head coach. He's the one who lobbied for him.
Right.
So this is a really, really big deal if this continues. And you and I talked about this in the preseason. We talked about it in the summer training camp. We talked about it even in OTAs. When was Dart going to get into the games? Was it going to be at the end of the year? Was he not even going to play this year? We thought there was a chance it might be early, but we weren't really high on that. But this is working out extremely well for them in terms of his development. As long as, again, he's getting beat up. This is like the second game now he's had to go in for a concussion protocol. That happened in the preseason too, didn't it? So there's been
the Patriots game, he was out in that one. Yeah.
3 times now. So I don't want to take that away from his game. People keep saying stop running him. No, that's part of his game. And if you take that away from him, you take what makes him good. You're just going to have to cross your fingers and hope for the best, and hope that they don't do things like you talked about, these designed goal line runs, too many of those things. But if he stays healthy and this is what we're going to get, holy crap, John. I mean, this is the biggest thing.
Oh, yeah.
Because last year, remember, when we were going through bad seasons, we were like, there's nothing to hang our hat on. Even if the Giants have a bad season this year, if Dart's the real deal, if Skattebo's the real deal, and I want to talk more about Skattebo. I want to talk about Dart. I want to talk about the defense. I want to talk about a lot of things. Little Jordan Humphrey. We can talk about everybody. Wandale Robinson came play.
Cordell Flott. Let's talk about Cordell Flott.
All these guys. I do have I'm going to set you up with something. Talk about Cordell Flott here for a second.
All right. Well, I'm thrilled that Cordell Flott is playing. You know how I feel about Banks. He never plays. That pass that Cordell intercepted never would have happened with Banks. That he would not have played the ball in the air. He wouldn't anticipate the move. He's always trailing and chasing the guy.
Yeah.
You look at that play. Flott. The one thing I don't like about a lot of the beat writers and stuff, and everybody complains about their questions. My wife was watching it with me this morning on a couple. She's like, why are they asking that stupid question about his legs and stuff? I'm like, they don't mean because he has legs. They mean because he's a runner. And she goes, I know that, but they keep asking him. I'm like, no, I get it. But why didn't they ask Flott? When they had a chance to talk to him, by the way, they asked Flott about Skattebo. They asked Flott about
I know.
Dart. I'm like, if I'm sitting there like,
I made the game change. Game
like,
deciding play here.
I was on the field. I did have a play. I would have asked him, what did you see pre-snap that told you? Because he basically broke on that ball the second that I think it was Brown. Second that Brown broke outside, he broke with him. He was cutting across. That was his ball all the way. It wasn't even close. I would love to have known what he saw that told him that's the play that's coming.
We have video of you on that play. All I could think about with you was like, he should have been playing all along, starting all along. Look, this is the argument. Look, I can see both sides of the argument. Flott should get all the snaps, or Banks should keep getting some snaps. And the argument don't want to spend too much time on the latter argument. The argument for the latter one is Deonte Banks is still a first-round draft pick. You don't want to completely give up on him, and in order for him to get better, he's still got to play a little bit, so give him some snaps. However, if Deonte Banks is in the game on that play doesn't happen. That doesn't happen, and that game gets way tighter than we want it, and maybe the Giants find a way to screw this up. So Cordell Flott sealed the deal with that play, and that was a big play. And going back to training camp, the coaches were saying that the player in camp that was getting his hands, here's another, I'm gonna get my trouble phrasing Tobias. The one that was getting his hands on the ball more than any other defensive back was Cordell Flott. More than any safety, more than any other cornerback, more than Paulson Adebo, that Cordell Flott was always making plays on the football in the summer, and we saw it there. And like he was waiting for that throw. And it wasn't a great throw, but it wasn't a horrific throw. He was waiting. He broke on that ball, and he if it wasn't Saquon, he would have scored, I think. I mean, Saquon's fast, but that sealed the deal. And we all intents and purposes. Oh, and the other thing I want to talk about real quick. God, my mind's going everywhere on this. What a way to end the goddamn game.
Oh my God, 6 minutes.
That is all right. All right. Shout out to UBI poster Lines of Scrimmage, who's always harping on the running game and being physical at the line of scrimmage, hence his handle, Lines of Scrimmage. The Giants were the more physical football team, and that nothing demonstrated that more than that last drive where the Eagles never got the ball back. And again, the game really wasn't in doubt, but that's how you end the game. And it was like, stop us, and Skattebo has brought an attitude to the team on offense. And even it's rubbing off on Devin Singletary with that run he had as well at the end. I mean, that's Giants football. You young guys out there who haven't seen the Giants win, that's Giants football. That was Giants football in the 80s. That was Giants football under Tom Coughlin. That's how you finish out a game. It's called the 4-minute drive. You don't let the other team get the ball back, even when they know you're going to run the football. And that was one of my favorite parts of the game, even though the game was pretty much in hand. It was just so satisfying to see them just grind out the clock like that.
The thing I'll say to that, because you're 1,000% right, but there is another component to it. And that component is when you as a team overall, when you are a team overall, right? When your offense is putting points on the board, when your special teams, because the Eagles special teams were screwing up left and right, dropping the ball and having to, down in the end zone. So it's out to the 20, dropping it goes out at the 5. Hey, that's your problem, not ours. And the Giants offense would then take advantage. Giants create turnovers. When you start to do that, it takes the will of the other team away a little bit. It's up to them at that point for your offensive line to go ahead and just say, we're now going to finish it off. Your weakened will now is going to be just mashed into the ground. It's like, it's really going to be nerd central. It's like Star Trek, and all of a sudden your shields are down to 30%. You just pound the shit out of the shields. They're down. Right. This is what, so when you start to lose your heart, what goes? The minute your heart starts to go away with it, physicality goes with it. And the Giants offensive line saw that and just mowed them down from there on out. But if the Giants don't score a couple of times, if they leave the Eagles hanging around, then the Eagles they're not worried. They're just waiting for the Giants to screw up. And the Giants kept taking it to them, and the Eagles were the ones that screwed up. The Eagles misplayed the end of the first half. By the way, do you know the last time the Eagles actually scored in the game?
In this game?
Yes. When was the last? Yes.
In the second quarter.
At the 6-minute and 56-second mark of the second quarter. From that point on, they never scored.
Right. And they had 3 punts and 2 turnovers on their 5 possessions in the second half. And the Giants had 4 possessions in the first half and scored touchdowns on 3 of the 4 possessions. So, and on the other possession, it was that play that you talked about, the drop pass by Theo Johnson, I believe. That was in the second quarter, right?
Start of the third quarter.
Third quarter. I'm sorry. I thought it was the second quarter. But they had 3 touchdowns out of 4 drives in the first half, and then the defense. So we have to see if this continues. Okay. So can the defense follow up with another really good performance. And oh, by the way, guys, I saw more than a couple of people say this. It wasn't just one guy who did start a thread on this. Can we stop nitpicking and finding something to bitch about after a win like this? People going, where the hell is Abdul Carter? Abdul Carter's not doing anything. Abdul Carter has done things. He dominated the Chargers a couple of weeks ago, and he's going to be fine. Just stop looking for something to bitch about when they win, especially against the Eagles. Let's be happy. So I get on last night, and everyone's celebrating, but then there were these threads and comments of like, "Where's Abdul Carter?" I'm like, "Stop, just stop."
Well, and two, I didn't like some of the way they used him per se, but the thing is, I kind of almost feel like there was some intentionality to it. Like, I think they purposely said, we're going to bull rush from the outside. Keep in mind, if you just kind of spin and roll inside or you come flying to the outside, he's a very mobile quarterback. I think the Giants did everything to keep him from being able to just run wild. He did get a few runs in, but not a lot. He did not create a lot with his legs. They really
13 yards, right? They only had 13
Yeah,
yards.
it wasn't much. It definitely wasn't much. They pushed a lot from the middle, but if you go back and watch, Abdul Carter is trying to bull rush Lane Johnson. There are very few people in the NFL that can bull rush Lane Johnson. I mean, Lane Johnson's not, he's not just your average right tackle. This is an all-pro right tackle. So I thought they did a really good job of just containing. But if you go back to the flawed interception, go look at it really closely. Abdul Carter is cutting in between the guard and the tackle. He's getting through there. Hurts has to throw the ball right then. If he waits, Carter's going to come through. So he was busting through when Hurts throws the ball.
And I agree with you. I have not rewatched the game yet, but I've watched the highlights a couple of times because it's cool. What did somebody say? Football. It's football porn last night. They said, so I'm like, so I've been watching. I got to rewatch the game today. But my impression was they were being very disciplined with their rushing because I was looking at their NASCAR package, and they were evenly spaced, and they were making it. At least the plays that I saw that I watched on the highlights, they were making sure that there were no really big rush lanes. So I think there's something to that. The other big thing is this. Look, this game did not start off well with the first two Saquon Barkley runs. It was like, oh, shit.
Or the kickoff.
We're the get right team. Remember my preview, which now looks hilariously bad, but we are the get right team for everybody. And I'm like, oh, Christ, here Barkley's going to get 300 yards against us, because the first one was like, I forgot what it was like 18 yards.
18 yards, and then the next one was 13.
And I'm like, and they're already in field goal range. And I'm like, oh my God. If you take out the 18-yard run he had at the end of the first half, I think he had 9 runs for 9 yards. And that 18-yard run at the end of the first half was, again, that was a kind of a gimme because they weren't playing the run at that point. So they shut down Saquon. And which I didn't expect. I did not expect that at all. And then again, we got the turnovers. So when this defense gets turnovers, stating the obvious, but when this defense gets turnovers, the Giants have a much higher chance to win. And the two wins that we have this year, we've gotten turnovers. So it's a big deal when the Giants get turnovers. So I thought the defense played really, really well in this game, given the opponent. Let's be honest, they could have laid an egg here emotionally coming off that horrible loss to the Saints. They could have had a big letdown too against the Chargers after losing that horrible game before that one too. So they've rebounded pretty well. What they've got to do is they've got to start stringing some wins together to get really interesting. So if they go into Denver and win, then we'll get really excited. But again, we'll have to see if they. This team has been like this so far. Dable had the right message in the locker room after the game. He was talking about that. He was saying we have to be.
This is the standard. This is what we should be.
We have to be consistent. We have to start stacking these together. So if we can get out of this next 2 games, wouldn't it be great if I don't want to get ahead, but the game in Philadelphia is going to be interesting. And we got to be brutally honest. Jalen Carter didn't play. That was a big loss for them.
It is. You know what?
We didn't have Malik, and we didn't have Malik Neighbors.
Yeah, I don't care about that. It is what it is. Every team plays that way.
But it
And
helped, John. It did help.
well, sure, but I mean, it helps
Just
that
not having Dexter Lawrence.
but we also we didn't have neighbors. We didn't, and Slayton might not be great for any other team, but he was the wide receiver number 2. We had to, so here's something. I don't want to get lost in the weeds on this one thing, but here's something to really think about.
Mm-hmm.
Little Jordan Humphrey went from the practice squad to starting in the game. Bo Collins and Jalen Hyatt were clearly pushed down. Wandell and Little Jordan were kind of out there right away, and they got a lot of playing time. Bo Collins had hardly any playing time.
Bo Collins is suffering for his lack of effort on that day, that interception. I think last week. I think
absolutely.
I think that he's in a doghouse right now.
I want to say it was the fourth quarter or the second quarter. But there was a point when the Giants brought out multiple receivers, and Gunner was one of the wide receivers that they brought out. Bo Collins was not one of the guys they brought out. This is a guy who was rolling as the number 4 guy, where Hyatt wasn't even getting into games, for God's sakes. Collins was getting out there, getting playing time, and now you bring up a guy from the practice squad, and he gets like starting time. A part of me wonders behind the scenes, who was calling the shots. What I thought was interesting, though, and I don't know if you caught it, is Daboll was asked about Little Jordan Humphrey and basically said he had a conversation with Dart and felt comfortable that was the guy that they would bring up. Now, their options were that or, Amir Smith-Marset. But that being said, it sounds to me like Dart kind of lobbied for that because of the connection they had during the summer, that he felt comfortable with him. And you could see it right off. Dart looked to him multiple times on some big play attempts down the field. And Humphrey's not exactly a speed guy.
Right. And Bitey Max pointed this out first, so I'm going to give him credit for this. But Little Jordan Humphrey blocks. He's a very good blocker. And Sean Payton loved that about him in Denver. I think in a perfect world, Denver would have liked to have kept Little Jordan Humphrey just because of that intangible that he brings. Look, he's not a great wide receiver. He's a practice squad wide receiver, but he doesn't screw up. He's consistent. He's reliable, and he made a big play. He used his size, the sky for that football, and that was a huge play. Led to a touchdown. It gave them momentum early in the game, and I think I'll really pick this up when I rewatch the game. I think we're going to see a bunch of plays where he was blocking down the field and allowing guys to get extra yardage. And so I think he has value. I don't think this is the end of Bo Collins, but I think correctly, and this is a Bill Parcells type thing, there are consequences for bad play, for bad effort, and Bo Collins is in timeout right now. And it's up to him what he makes out of it. Is he going to sulk, or is he going to come back and learn from this and become a better player? But right now, Little Jordan Humphrey is a guy that I expect moving forward is going to be, a significant player. I think Dart likes throwing to him. I'm glad you brought him up because I have a sense that I bet you Dart lobbied for his playing time. That's my guess.
Oh, absolutely.
That he's lobbying, because he spent a lot of time throwing to him in the summer. I think he's comfortable with him. So I actually wondered, when the injuries piled up, I wondered if Dart was like lobbying for like his old receiver, like Antoine Wells. Remember the guy that was in camp?
Sure. Yeah.
At this point, you just want. I think he was really irritated with Jalen Hyatt about something last week. I suspect it was his blocking too on that scramble where he looked at him and started yelling at him. So, but again, I don't want to get too excited about Jalen, but at least Jalen did something in this game. It would have been nice if he could have fought through that contact and got that touchdown on a perfect pass, but he got mugged on that play. But that's the lack of physicality Jalen has. He can't fight through that contact. And, if that's neighbors, that's probably a touchdown, for instance.
I think obviously the Giants drafted Hyatt, so that is part of a differentiating point between him and Collins. But I think the part that really got Collins in trouble was the fact that he blatantly led to the interception. He stopped running the route. He didn't run he just stopped, and that allowed the interception, which is a huge deal for Daboll on a number of pieces. A, you turn the ball over. B, your quarterback has no trust in you. C, he needs the quarterback to look good for his own job, and you just hung him out to dry. Hyatt's job has basically been to get open, get down the field, and he just isn't doing it. But they weren't throwing him the ball. So it's not like he made a blatant mistake or anything like that. Collins was pretty obvious. He stopped running. It was picked off.
Right.
That's a big no-no when you're an undrafted free agent who made the team. That's going to hurt you. Humphrey, by the way, just to kind of clear up a little bit, he does have up until coming into this. Well, right now with the 4 he had last night, 66 receptions, 825 yards. He's had 7 touchdowns in the NFL.
Yeah,
far more production than Jalen Hyatt has.
Oh yeah, no.
So,
But again. But people should not expect him to be like the savior of the situation. Teams are not afraid of little Jordan Humphrey at all. So, but if he can come in here and be like I don't know, poor man's version of, I don't know, it's a bad comparison because physically they're nothing alike, but like a poor man's version of Chris Callaway, just sort of reliable.
Little Cab Callaway. All right.
That kind of thing. Cab Callaway, Chris Callaway was a way better player, but that kind of, but he didn't scare anybody either, that kind of thing. Jeremy, Odell's not in the picture because he got the PED suspension for 6 games.
So you don't want to bring him into this.
And even if he wasn't toast, if you sign him, he's suspended for 6 games. So he's Gabe Davis. I am kind of surprised after the
interest earlier,
the injury and to Malik Neighbors that they didn't try. Maybe they did try. I don't know, but
maybe they know a little bit more about that knee than he is sitting on a practice squad. He's not on. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it might not be. It very well could be one of those knee injuries that kind of never gets better.
Right.
And because he has yet to be, as far as I've seen, and the Bills aren't exactly stacked at wide receiver right at the moment. So it's not like they couldn't use a guy like him, but no, he's on the practice squad.
And our ex-receiver is still on the Steelers practice squad too. What's his face?
Isaiah Hodgins, I believe.
Yeah, he's
that's
still
correct.
there, right? Yeah,
I believe that's correct.
He would make sense because he knows the system, but again, they have to agree to doing this too. I would assume they would jump at the opportunity to go to a 53-man roster, but who the heck knows? By the way, did you see our buddy SPP? Again?
I did. Yes, I put it up there a little bit earlier.
Did you? Okay,
yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, no, dude's awesome.
I wish I had the capital to throw around like you did.
I think it's kind of interesting too. We're talking about everybody, but I think there's one guy we should really kind of focus a little bit more on for a second, and that is Wan'Dale Robinson played pretty big last night. He made a really nice catch down the field. He was throwing his body around on some of the running plays where he was on the field to block. The dude is not big. The catch on the sidelines, which was, by the way, not to make a pun out of the deal, after scrambling all around, when Dart throws that ball, it's not just, and you recall it, he's all, whatever, but still looking down the field. I like to think of it as like calm chaos. He's moving all around, but he's still thinking ahead. That was a laser, a dart that he threw to the sidelines in order for that Wan'Dale to even make the catch and make a move. But look who's blocking down the field. Little Jordan Humphrey's down the field making blocks. I thought Wan'Dale played a really good, and he had that one catch across the middle. He took a pretty big hit that flipped him up in the air, and he landed on his face mask and rolled over. But that was a big play for him. And he had another one. I think the very next play, they called a quick out throw to him for another 7 or 8 yards. So Wan'Dale, it should not be lessened on what he brought to the team last night, because he was wide receiver number 1.
I have to admit that I also held my breath when he got. Did you see that play where he got kind of flipped over the middle? Where he
yeah, that's one I was just talking about. Yeah.
I mean, that to me scared me a little bit. That looked like that was. I thought for a minute I was like, whoa, he got something. Must have snapped there. SPP. This is a good question, but I'm not sure if I'm the GM, I'm trading away. Remember, they already gave away their 3rd round pick. I'm not sure I'm trading away another pick for this team for a wide receiver right now. I'd rather keep those picks and use them on wide receivers in the draft. I'm not sure. I'm just not sure. I value draft picks a lot, so I'm very reluctant to do that. Now, if there's somebody we can get rid of, and this is not likely, but like an Evan Neal
or Deontay Banks
or something like that. Well, again,
no, I absolutely trade him. I'm not even joking about it. I trade him.
But if Cordell gets hurt and he has a history of getting hurt, then you're screwed. So you got to
play somebody else. Why am I any? We've got other corners on our team. I don't
Yeah,
care.
do we?
But wait, hold up. Think of it this way. You're holding on to the thought no different than Joe Shane is just because he was a first-round draft pick.
No. I'm holding on to him because of the injury history of.
But he's done nothing on the field. He's literally he is subtraction by addition. You put him on, we lose points. That guy, I would rather play an Art Green. I'd rather move Andre Phillips out there. I would rather take a guy off the practice squad because overall, he's done nothing but just make huge mistakes. I would rather trade him to a team that thinks they might be able to rehabilitate him and get me a wide receiver. Then what am I losing? What am I losing at that point? Nothing.
I don't think he's been as bad as you say he has.
You keep saying that, and I keep being proven right, though.
No. I think what happens to him is there's a play in each game that people point to and go, that's a bad play. But the other plays are decent or good. I don't think he's been burned a lot. I think what's frustrated people this year with him is like that penalty that took away the interception. So I don't think he's been great. I don't think he's been terrible. I think Cordell Flott has outplayed him and deserves to be the starter. But if Cordell Flott or Paulson Adebo goes down and Art Green is your backup, is your starter, then I think you're asking for trouble. So if you trade Deonte Banks, you better get something significant for it because it's a depth issue at that point.
Let me ask you this.
You can't put Andrew Phillips out there because Andrew Phillips is your starting nickel corner.
Listen, I'm willing to roll the dice with whoever else I have. I've already decided this guy is not the guy.
I know you do. You hate Banks.
But it's not just a matter of hating the guy. Yes, it's a matter of I hate his game. You can defend him all you want.
I'm Giants not defending him. I'm saying he's not as bad.
But you're holding on to him to a thing that's not realistic. He makes more than one bad play a game. He makes multiple bad plays a game. The Giants coaching staff clearly has given up on the guy in terms of we can't keep putting him out there. And I'm not even sure they wanted to begin with. I have a feeling this was a bit coming from above that you better play him. And now they've just gotten away from it. I say move on to him. Here's the reason why. I'm going to ask you this. If he goes through the rest of the season and really doesn't play much at all, right? Let's say he doesn't play much at all.
Right.
And you go into the offseason, you're like, we don't want this guy on our team. What are you going to get from him then? Who's going to give you anything? They already know you didn't play him in a season that we don't know how it's going to play out yet, but let's assume we're not on the plus side of the wins at the end of the year for the moment. If you're a 6-win team, a 7-win team max, and he doesn't play, you've done everything possible to move on from him. What are you getting from him if you try to trade him in the offseason? You have a better shot right now at a team that might be in contention, that has injuries, that will take a chance because he was a former first-round pick right now. That frees up some salary for us, by the way. And we might be able to get a receiver from them, especially if they have a number of them.
Right.
So take a team like Kansas City, which is pretty deep, and they're about to get Rashee Rice back, and they have multiple receivers. If they need a corner, that's a team. I'm just throwing them out there as somebody. Baltimore has a ton of injuries on their defensive side of the ball. They would have some receivers because overall their game isn't predicated on 4, 5, 6 wide receivers. It's 3 receivers and multiple tight ends and their running backs. There's another team. What I'm saying is if you're going to move on from the guy at some point, and this is the problem that we've done in the past, we hold on to guys too long. I would have cut him already. I would have traded him for sure. But if that opportunity is now, I definitely take it. But that's just me.
Yep. Nope. I don't think we should spend much time on this, but I wouldn't do it right now. If someone gave you a good player for him or a good pick, I would listen. But I don't think they're going to do that, so therefore I don't do it. Again, Cordell Flott deserves to start. If he gets hurt, you're in trouble. If Banks is off this team at this point, unless you believe in Art Green, like you said. But
well, I mean, I don't know. Let's put it this way: I don't disbelieve in Art Green any more than I disbelieve in Deonte Banks.
Right. But again, you think I've got this big
boner for man? I don't know how to say it. That came out wrong.
Man crush on Banks. I don't, but I don't think he's played as bad as I think. I think you. I don't want to get into this. You don't like you haven't liked him since last year. You want him off. You've said it. You want him off.
But I've been right though. His play was bad enough overall. Multiple games this year that the Giants finally said we can't bother doing this anymore.
wanted to get rid of him because you thought he was a quitter. I haven't seen the quit this year. What I've seen is what you've talked about is the instincts. The instincts haven't been there. So I think so I haven't seen the quit. And again, his teammates pick up for him. So
I'm looking at the chat. I don't know who DQ Day, whatever. You can say anything you want. It's not a matter of being calmed down. And Eric's not the voice of reason to everything. Eric is very passionate about some things, and I'm extremely passionate about others. So that being said, there are plenty of people on this site that absolutely agree with me about Banks. So we'll just move on from the Banks piece. One of the things I was a little concerned with, I don't know if you saw it or not, Illuminor definitely looked like he had a shoulder problem on the last couple of snaps of the game. I can't remember. I'm trying to remember when I saw him. I think it was the left shoulder that he was holding his arm in tight. When they were doing the kneel downs, he was holding his arm in tight. And I saw that Duggan mentioned it too, that Illuminor came up with a shoulder issue at the end of the game. That's a little concerning because you already are talking about the fact that Runyon's pretty banged up and they're hoping that, give him some time to rest. There, you've got Schmitz broke his nose at a minimum with a concussion. But Illuminor with a shoulder problem, that would complicate things for the Giants offensive line just when it was getting some serious cohesion. So I'm hoping it's nothing serious there.
Yeah, they got 10 days. So I think they'll be fine.
All righty then. Look at you. You are on the Quaaludes today. Holy shit. You need to mow the lawn before we do shows more often. So on the overall, though, was there anything from the game besides the outcome that actually surprised you? Something you just did not expect?
The whole game.
Well, I said besides the outcome, but I mean like anything the Giants did, who they used, or maybe we should talk about what happened when Dart went to the tent, which has now become a bit.
Well, yeah, let's not spend too much time on that. That's just horseshit. We will talk about it. But one thing that I do want to say, who would have thought the Eagles special teams would have had as bad a problem as you mentioned earlier? They were playing lights out, and they were probably responsible for at least 2 of their wins this year. And our special teams, I think, probably outplayed them minus the kicker. So that surprised me, but everything surprised me in this game. We were the more physical football team. Skattebo brings just a level of physicality and attitude. You mentioned the interview that he had earlier after the game in the locker room. I liked what he said after the game to the TV broadcast Amazon broadcast when he said I think it was Fitzpatrick. It might have been the host. I'm not sure. Said, "What's your identity?" And he said, "This is our identity."
That is. Yes.
But what's your identity? This is our identity. Yeah, I just love that.
What just happened right there is our identity.
That was great. Yeah, I thought that. I just think, I've got a man crush on him.
Oh yeah, he's huge connection with those two guys.
And look, when we were talking draft, I openly questioned, as did others, and I think Cy did to a certain extent too. Wondered a little bit how his game would translate to the NFL in terms of taking the physical punishment on a game by game basis. Could he sustain that? We'll have to see. For some reason, that doesn't worry me. I don't know why. Somebody had a great quote. Oh God, I wish I could remember it. It was about people aren't hitting him. He's hitting other people. But they said they used some quote that was fantastic. But he's delivering the hits. He's not taking the hits. And I don't know why, but I don't worry about him. He's just somebody said there's something wrong with that guy, but they said it in a good, it was Pellisario. I think I just posted it. He said there's something wrong with him, but he said it in a good way. And there is something wrong with him. He's the Tasmanian devil. And I just love what he brings to the team. And somebody else, it might've been Bitey Max or Giant Grit. I'm not sure who said it. I am going to really enjoy seeing a game where Skattebo carries the ball like 10, 12 times, and the defense is getting tired of it. And the Eagles were getting tired of it. You picked that up.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
They were getting tired of it. They didn't want anything to do with that guy. And there was that great run where Theo Johnson had a good block, and he got down to the 1 yard line and ran over. He did that thing that he did in college. People said he won't be able to do that in the NFL. Well, guess what? He's doing it in the NFL. And there were people that said he wouldn't be able to do that. And even on BBI, they were saying that he's so overrated. Well, guess what? He's not. He's doing it in the NFL. And if this continues, I think he's going to become a fan favorite. I think a lot of people are going to be buying his jerseys. I think he's a bit of an nutball, but in a good way. And I love him. And I love what Dart's bringing to the team. So I was surprised with the defense. I was surprised with the ability of the Giants to move the ball. And I think we were outrageously good on third down. We kept converting on third down. The Eagles were 1 of 9 on third down.
We were like 11.
And if they didn't have that stupid tush push crap, they would have been awful. So
they moved multiple times before the ball was snapped.
They always do. They don't call that.
But what I have a real problem with, not just the tush push part, there's times in pass pro where they will, before the snap, the right tackle, Lane Johnson, is dropping back and the ball is not snapped yet. He's clearly moving before the snap. And I'm like, how do you miss that? Like I called my son's there and I'm like, false start. He goes, didn't that guy, and my son is not like, he doesn't love football the way that I do. He watches it with us now, but he's not invested in all the intricacies of it.
Right.
He just kind of likes the fact that I'm into it and he's really interested in that part of it. He goes, didn't that guy kind of move before everybody else did? I'm like, he absolutely did. I'm like, if you see that, Jesus, they have to. It's pathetically bad. The tush push is extremely bad for the game for a lot of reasons. I don't care that the Eagles are better at it than other people.
How can you push somebody into the end zone? That used to be a penalty.
Well, at the same time,
not to do that.
Go back and look. When Skattebo and he stuck the ball out over the goal line, they didn't give him the touchdown right away. He sticks it out. He starts to get pushed back.
He fumbled on that play too.
But that was already. I mean, that was.
I know, but
later.
He's got to be. Look, we gave. I'm on Bradshaw. I saw his name earlier. We gave Tyrone Tracy grief about that. Skattebo's got to hold on to that a little bit.
True. But I mean, he stuck it out past the goal line. It was already a But where I was going with that is the refs. They blow the whistle and the ref goes forward progress. And I'm thinking, forward progress. You blew the whistle like that. There's a pile of like 22 people. And the whistle doesn't blow for a long time. And Dexter Lawrence brought it up. He's like, well, if you just let them keep pushing, even though we've stopped them, and after a while, and I'm like, that whole play just makes it's horrifyingly bad. You're really asking a defense at some point to just cheap shot the quarterback to keep that from happening again, because they allow the linemen for the Eagles. They used to allow them to like line up almost with their head straight down into the ground, where it was almost like they were already offsides. That means the defenders cannot get lower than the offensive linemen, but that also means the defensive lineman can't see the ball because all the linemen are down over it. It's absolutely, so they made them, you can't do that. So now they're back a little bit, but they still crunch in and they're low, and then they give them a good 2-3 seconds of a pile. I'm like, what the hell is that? That's ridiculous at that point. You got to call that. I think that play is going to get eliminated. I think they've looked at it, but last night it was ridiculous. But it was all the Eagles had to get in the end zone. That was the only thing.
Let's because again, we've covered so much. There's so much to talk about, and we want to keep it somewhat tight. But let's talk about the fact that Brian Burns is playing lights out.
Oh man, absolutely.
Both of sacks came at critical junctions on third down. Both were in third down. Yes, both were on third down. I think Kayvon Thibodeau, I showed the Nick Filato clip, but he did that multiple times tonight. I thought he played the edge very well. We had Carl Banks on. Remember, we had an interview with Carl Banks, and Carl said he wishes he could get his hands on the linebackers and teach them how to play the edge. That was how Carl Banks used to play the edge. That was a great play. And Kayvon's having a good year, and don't just look for sacks and pressures and interceptions and that kind of thing. Look at how somebody plays the run. And again, Saquon Barkley, and I know he's not having the same year as he did last year so far, but they did a number on Saquon last night against a very good offensive line. And Kayvon's playing very well. And we need to get shout out to the guys up front that are playing well. And the secondary, Cordell Flott, shout out to him. He he has nailed down that other cornerback spot. Just pray that he can stay healthy. That's been his. Somebody's tweeted out, I think it was Art Stapleton, that when the Giants drafted Cordell, he was 21 years old, and now he's developed into this player that they hoped he was. He was basically kind of implying that this was just he just needed to be developed. The problem with Cordell hasn't been the ability to play. It's he can't stay healthy. So far, again, knock on wood, he's been able to stay healthy. But every year, we've talked about this repeatedly, every year when he was just seemed to be coming on, he would get an injury and he would be out for 4 games and it would set him back. And the defensive back coaches that were fired kept talking about that, about he just can't stay in the game. He can't stay healthy. So that's what's helping him right now is he's actually staying healthy and he's making these plays now. But if he can lock down that other corner spot, then you got to think about re-signing him maybe in the offseason. And like you were talking about, is Deonte Banks expendable at that point too? But between the two right now, Cordell Flott is obviously playing better football. And I thought the safeties played better. The only thing last night is Goddard killed us.
Same old. Yeah.
It was like, I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter who's playing safety and linebacker, what decade it is, who the head coach is, who the defensive coordinator is. This team always has problems with tight ends. I don't know what it is, but Goddard was driving me nuts last night. So
a couple things. Burns is absolutely DQ. That's awesome. Burns is playing lights out, like really lights out. I think Kayvon Thibodeaux. So I'm going to say this, and this is going to be probably borderline controversial because it's going to be the opposite of something I said probably back in the spring. I actually would work on redoing Kayvon's deal right now. We have him locked up for next year. We have the 5th-year option already in place. If you truly believe that you have your franchise quarterback, which I currently believe that we do, if I'm the Giants, I say we have a 3-headed monster in Burns, Thibodeaux, and Carter. I don't know long-term really what I'm going to be able to get from Dexter Lawrence because, quite frankly, he has not played a full game yet this year. He's still kind of coming back from the elbow. It's in a huge brace again. Long-term, you don't know what you're going to get from a 340-pound guy. Things could go off the cliff very fast. You've got 3 guys that are big-time pass rushers. I redo his contract. That frees up money now, and it frees up money next year if you stretch it out properly. Because I think he's done something that I didn't expect from him, and that is he's become extremely physical on the outside.
Yes.
You watch him set the edge. He plays very aggressive into the tackle, holds the tackle off, and then plays off it and plays the run. I don't think he's ever going to be the pass rusher that maybe we thought he would be when he came out. I think he's more of a Carl Banks type player where he can rush the passer some. He does play the run pretty darn well. He's a physical presence now that he wasn't before. I redo his contract and I keep him on board.
I'm on board, but does he want to do that? That's the thing. True. The problem is does Kayvon want to be splitting snaps with 2 other guys? That's the fly in the ointment here. And again, he's a California guy. So we talked about this a couple episodes ago. It is even if you want to bring him back, he's got to want to come back too. I don't think they're going to franchise him. So
you don't have to because you already got him signed for next year.
I know what I'm saying is I'm not sure if I'm Kayvon. If I'm Kayvon, I want to stay here.
He's a Metro guy, meaning he likes the bright lights. He likes some of the other stuff.
Yes. But he also likes the West Coast. That's true. And we're both speculating, by the way. Neither one of us has actually talked to him and know personally what he's talked about it.
But I'm saying we haven't actually asked him. So we're going by what we think.
Come on, Kayvon. We'll have a
hey, absolutely. Anytime.
I opened my second beer, by the way. So
I wonder, I finished my entire gin and tonic. I was like, damn it. I wonder if the Dart factor helps them with anybody that they want to redo right now. If you believe you've got a quarterback and you're ready to go and this team is ascending, do you want to leave? I don't know. Obviously Thibodeaux would have to want to, but if there's an option there to do it, if he's interested, if I'm the Giants, I open that door. I ask him.
If it's no brainer, if he'll come back. I'm not just saying I'm not sure he wants to come back. And again, it's not even does he want to come back to the Giants because of the Giants? It's like, I'm not getting the same kind of snaps I would get someplace else, and the money that I may get someplace else. I'm on board, John, if he'll take it. I'm just not sure.
Right.
So, all right, let's get back to the Eagles because we're going to celebrate. What are we forgetting? We talked about defense. We talked about offense. Are we missing something? The offensive line. John Michael Schmitz, as you said, I thought was playing well.
He played pretty well last night.
Left, and his replacement came in, and you didn't miss a beat, which was awesome. Schlottman came in and played well. I thought there were a couple of plays where you saw like a Van Roten on the goal line get shoved backwards. But I thought the offensive line, for the most part, Andrew Thomas has really settled this down. I don't think he's given up a pressure.
Oh, he's been amazing. He's been amazing.
I think he's been and again, he's been really good against the as a run blocker too. I just love the way the Giants are starting to become, and I've harped on this for years, they're starting to become more physical on offense. And I think that's on Skattebo and a little bit on Dart too. I just love the fact that they're now, I don't remember the last time the Giants were the more physical football team against the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't remember.
Oh, it's been a while.
I don't remember. Maybe I'm forgetting something. I don't really remember even that last win we had too well, even though it was back in January 2024. It was the game that Jalen Hurts left. It was when the Eagles were going through their collapse. Remember when they lost like 5 games in a row at the end of the season, and we beat. That was the last time we beat.
Yeah.
But I don't remember the last time we were like.
I think before that, it would have been the Judge years where Jalen threw a couple of interceptions deep in our territory. We won the game. It was a weirdly low-scoring Daniel Jones game that we won. So it'd have to be 20.
When's the last time? I mean, when's the last time? You have to almost go back to the. Even Coughlin's teams kind of struggled with the Eagles at times. You have to kind of go back to the Fossil years where the Giants were just beating up on the Eagles, and the Eagles didn't want anything to do with Skattebo at some points. And I think one of the Eagle players was asked about Dart after the game, and he didn't want to talk about him. He was so pissed. We have players now that piss off the the Eagles, and that anyway. So, man, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but what if we sweep them, John?
Well, the funny thing is, so real quick, not to take anything away from the Giants, because none of this is negative about the Giants, but just to turn your attention to Philadelphia. It's one of the things that I wanted to broach before the game, but considering where the Giants were, it just would have sounded like, oh, you're just being overly optimistic. I wasn't thinking about the Giants. I was thinking about the Eagles specifically. They barely beat the Rams because they blocked a field goal. The Rams moved up and down the field on them. The Rams made multiple mistakes in that game. They should have won the game. Tampa Bay was the same way. Philadelphia was out to a lead and then kind of fell apart. They allowed Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay should have won that game. They blew it on special teams again. Philadelphia is not the same team. There is a lot. One thing I thought last night, and it actually came to fruition, was if you stick around long enough and you start doing stuff where you're scoring, you're making plays, this is a team that I think they're held to. This is going to sound kind of funny when I say it. They're held together by success, but not held together by this overall team unity kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
AJ Brown is a guy who likes to walk his own thing. He walked himself out of Tennessee with his attitude, and it sounds like he's got the same problem now here. He's not a big fan of Jalen Hurts. They have bumped heads even in the Super Bowl year. They were bumping heads. Saquon Barkley, by the way, someone brought it up in the game thread on BBI, BigBlueInteractive.com, is the fact that Saquon did some things that Saquon did with us that used to piss us off. He got a pass, and then he came over, and Cordell Flott forced him out of bounds. 175-pound, and I'm saying soaking wet and had lunch, Cordell Flott pushed Saquon Barkley out of bounds. There's a guy that kind of gave up on it. He when he got put to the outside, and I think Thibodeau met him on the outside, he kind of gave up right away. He did not try to he's not Skattebo. He's not going to lower his head and just try to drive into you and push you back. He turns his back, he takes the tackle, and the play's over. There's something going on with that team. I think there are a lot of attitude and a lot of bravado, and the Giants stuck it to them. And when they couldn't just inflict their will on the Giants, you saw them wilt, and that's the first time in years that I've seen the Giants do that to them.
Yeah, and I agree with everything you said, but the only thing I will say, again, is because I've seen this movie before. We've written the Eagles off over and over again through the years, and they turn the ship around. And so I hope this is the beginning of a downward spiral for them, but I will not write them off yet. I think the Eagles Giants game in a couple of weeks is going to be fascinating to watch, because the Eagles are going to come into that going, we got Jalen Carter back. Mitchell, our corner, is going to be back. You know, you're coming to our house. Let's see what you got, Giants. If the Giants steal that game, then we're talking. So there's a back and forth chat here in Fedoni. In chat, I just want to address this real quick. John and I like Fedoni a lot. One of the issues right now, which is a good issue, is the tight ends on the roster are playing well. So Daniel Bellinger is playing well. Theo Johnson's playing well. He has a drop here and there, but he's blocking very well and he's making big plays. And he's the entrenched starter. And our blocking tight end is also doing very well. So it's not that Fedoni doesn't deserve a shot. It's that the Giants are well situated right now at tight end. Fedoni will get his chance. He's not on the practice squad. He's on the 53, and he actually was active
2 weeks in a row now.
For 2 weeks in a row. So he'll get his chance. But don't dismiss the way the tight ends right now are playing. A lot of people did not want to keep Daniel Bellinger on this roster. Sure. And Daniel Bellinger is playing very well right now. So we need to give credit where credit's due. And it's a damn shame that the wide receiver core is what it is right now. And because that's the weak spot. So I don't want to spend time on this, but I've been scouting wide receivers and offensive linemen still for the Giants in the draft. So, and Colin, by the way, if people want to watch games on Saturday, there's a lot of good. There are players playing on Saturday that'll be Giants. Like if you want to look at a wide receiver, look at Jordan Tyson, look at Mekhi Lemon, look at Denzel Boston. These are one of these guys. There's a very good chance that they might be a New York Giant. Carnell Tate at Ohio State. Carnell Tate would be great on this team. I have a funny feeling Cy is going to lobby for him being a Giant.
Well. Look at the tight ends right now for the Giants, and there's something to pay attention to. You pointed it out from this particular game, but I think it's been kind of developing over the last couple of games. We just saw a really good example of it last night. Is that Theo Johnson's blocking has improved a lot. Bellinger has become a pretty good blocker, not a great blocker, but a pretty good blocker. Johnson really he's got size. He's got some size to him, and he put it to good use last night. But what to notice is Manhertz's usage is coming down. Even though the Giants are going to bigger packages, the number of plays that he's in for are coming down. The Giants are going to a lot of two tight ends, and that's Bellinger and Johnson. But with little Jordan Humphrey on the field, now you've got three kind of bigger guys. You don't have to have Manhertz out there. And if they go two backs, that takes out that other third tight end. So Manhertz is coming down. I think at some point, Fedoni's going to be the guy that they might start playing to use as a goal line receiving option when they want to go bigger.
Right. And I think Manhertz's playing time, I think this is just speculation, might be declining because of Bellinger is becoming a better blocker. And Theo Johnson becoming a better blocker. So those guys have been blocking well. Manhertz is the blocker. He doesn't offer anything as a wide receiver. I mean, as a receiver.
Right.
So why?
And that might be the big part. Sorry, my bad.
I was just going to say, so again, Thomas Fedoni's time will come. It'll probably be more next year, but it doesn't mean the team's down on him. It's a numbers game right now. I wish we had a numbers game at wide receiver. We don't have a numbers game at wide receiver. That's where.
Well, we have a numbers game. It's like, how many can we find to actually play that night?
So I wanted to ask you, what do you think moving forward at wide receiver? Because it's come up. Do you think they stay with what they've got? Do you think they make a move? I'm guessing they stay with what they have. I suspect they're looking at practice squad players. They couldn't do anything before this game because there wasn't any time.
Yeah, you wouldn't have been able to learn the. I mean, if you bring
Yeah,
anybody elsewhere, they wouldn't know the offense with 3 days of walkthroughs.
they've got
Um,
they've got
trade deadline is when? November or something?
yeah, isn't it usually the end of October? I think I'd have to look it up.
I want to
And they've
say
got
I think it's early November this year.
and they've got a spot open on the practice squad, and they've got 10 days. So I would expect them to maybe bring in a wide receiver at least to the practice squad to start getting him ramped up.
I don't think they trade unless you beat Denver, you beat Philadelphia, you're sitting as a 4-win team. It's November 4th. Thank you. You're a 4-win team, and you're probably solidly in contention for, at that point you're in contention with a bunch of other teams for wild card consideration. Then maybe you look to bring in a veteran receiver from another team. I think if you lose one of those games and you're there really isn't, because of the salary cap situation, there's really no point in doing that, because what are you doing other than just filling a spot and not really changing the course of the team? I think they're going to probably go by with what they've got. I actually don't think they'll make a move unless they move a player, a Neal. I know I said Banks, you don't agree, but somebody else. I don't think they'll trade picks because we don't have a lot. We don't have a lot to work with to give up. And why would you want to give up picks per se? So I think it all depends. Now, the funny thing is, you talked about Philadelphia. Remember we were talking about schedules, and one of the things I said is keep an eye on, it's not who you're playing, it's when you play them.
Yeah.
So the Giants, this was a game that actually didn't really look great for them per se.
No, the Eagles were coming off a loss.
Because I was actually hoping they would have a tough game and win and overlook the Giants.
Yes, that's one of the reasons why I thought this was going to be the
Giants are the ones coming off the loss, and I was like, oh God, this is going to be a nightmare. That being said, here's Philadelphia.
And the stadium was half filled with Eagles fans.
Yeah, the sound was weird for Amazon. It doesn't pick the crowd noise up as well as you would think.
People were there. Again, I'm just going based on what the comments on the site. They were saying it was like 50% Eagles fans. I didn't think it was that much from the TV, but there were a lot of green jerseys there.
Boy, they got quiet at the second half of the game, though.
Yeah.
So Philadelphia's schedule, though, coming up, because we have Philadelphia in 2 weeks. Philadelphia's next game is at Minnesota. Then they have us. Then they go to Green Bay. Then they're home for the Lions. And then after that, they've got the Cowboys. The Eagles do not have an easy stretch of games.
Yeah.
So while the Giants might be on their radar as far as we want to get back at them, they got some other stuff that they need to pay attention to before and after. So the Giants isn't easy. We've got Denver. But here's the thing about playing Denver. Who does Denver play this week? The New York Jets. Where do they play them? They play them in London or England, whatever city in England that they're playing in. So they're playing an overseas game. Then they come back on a short. Really, that's a short week, by the way. Play on a Sunday, fly back. So you are catching them at a decent time in your favor. So the Giants have 10 days to rest up, get your shit in order, carry through what you've been doing. Last night was so good, and it's a continuation of the two previous games. Forget the result of the Saints game, but in terms of the way the offense was moving the ball, the way they were putting schemes together, you can kind of see what Daboll wants to do. This is the chance. If they're going to turn shit around, this is the time to do it.
So I'm assuming that you're off we're going to fire Daboll during the bye week.
For right now, the other thing too, we haven't talked about it, and I think we should real quick. John Mara clearly is not just dealing with a minor skin cancer, like they burn something off.
He didn't look good.
He did not look well.
He didn't look good. He didn't look well. Yeah. But by the way, before we get off, because we usually go 90 minutes, it seems like. If you guys look, John and I have been all over the place. If you guys want to tee up some things that we have not discussed about the Eagles, throw it in the comments section and we'll talk about it, because John and I are all over the place. So if there's something that you've been like, damn, why haven't they talked about this? Bring it up. And John and I will talk about John Mara here. But if you got something that you want us to.
I think there's one thing that we haven't talked about at all.
What?
And I'm just curious. So,
do you want to talk about John Mara first, or do you want to?
well, we can. I thought
Oh.
you kind of like you did it, and I didn't know we were
Okay.
gonna. I didn't know we were gonna keep from there.
I didn't think he looked healthy in the game at all, in the locker room at all. So maybe it's.
And in the box, it was weird because in the box, he clearly was by himself.
Hmm.
And you usually do that when your immune system is challenged and things like that. But then he's in the locker room with everybody, without a mask, without anything else. So maybe that was just the timing when they saw him. But he did look. He looked bloated. He looks like he's been dealing with They usually give you a lot of steroids, which I'm familiar with all this with my dad's treatments. They give you a lot of steroids when you're dealing with chemo or whatever you're dealing with. He definitely did not look well for him. He looked very different. So, do I think that firing Dayball now, obviously, when you win a game like this, like you said, right, beating the Saints wouldn't necessarily move the needle per se, but it would have been 2 in a row, but that doesn't move the needle. Even beating the Chargers and then losing to the Saints didn't move the needle because you followed it up with a bad loss and some other stuff. Beating the Eagles and dominating them the way that you did on a short week, a week in which your offense is depleted, and you put a game plan together that says we can win. And by the way, Dayball has made it unbelievably clear, and it does not end after when he first did it. It continues to happen. Jaxson Dart's his guy. What did he say yesterday that was extremely important to take from it? He's been my guy since we took him in the spring.
Right.
He wanted
him to start this. I'm convinced that he wanted him to start the season.
Absolutely.
So it begs the question: is why didn't he? Was he told he can't by somebody above him? Who knows? But that's somebody got mad at us for speculating about anything. I'm like, if we can't speculate, then a lot of what we talk about is going to be really boring.
Well, I mean, you kind of have to, though. I mean,
you have to, because we don't know. Again,
we're not pieces together. I mean, it seems obvious at this point
what we can talk about. But I think Dart. I don't think Dart's here without Dayball, and I think Dayball wanted Dart to start the season, which begs the question: would our win-loss record be any different? Who knows? Who knows? But it's interesting to think about. I also, if you haven't seen it, if you want to hear what I thought was a really good sort of, at least in my thought, I think I don't want to speak for John, but I'm guessing John would agree if he hasn't seen it. Pelissero did, sitting in for Rich Eisen, did a thing on the Giants that I posted in the forum. And there's a lot of, he goes back and he says, a lot of the things that the Giants did now makes more sense based on what happened now with the Eagles and where the team is trending now, with letting Saquon go, bringing in Brian Burns, the financial ramifications of those things, in the moves with Dart and stuff like that. So anyway, if you want to feel good about maybe some of the things that the Giants have done, instead of having people rag on them all the time, listen to Pelissero's commentary on the Giants. John and I will probably dive into that in some future episode,
sure,
but again, we're speculating. But I thought that was very interesting.
So the question, I totally agree with you. The thing that we did not talk about, but I think we should, because it's come up in other games, the use of that timeout right before the end of the first half, I thought was borderline. It was about an egregious error as you can possibly make. There was zero reason for the Giants. There was a play against the Saints where the Giants called the timeout, and I kept thinking, why did you do that? There was no reason to call that there. Actually, it wasn't against it. It was against the Chargers. Let them use their timeout. Why are we doing it, helping them out? And last night, it was, why are we calling? What are you worried about that moment? They're scrambling around. He hasn't even got up to the line of scrimmage. Look at the clock. Like, just look at the clock. There was literally 3 seconds left. I'm trying to remember on the play clock. It was almost out. Why are we just let him run the play?
So what you're saying is Brian Daboll is the Deontay Bankses of coaches.
What I'm saying is he could use, as Parcells used to have a guy, and
Ray Hanley.
Ray Hanley was that guy. Ray Hanley was the timeout guy. He would tell Parcells whether he
was more than a timeout guy. He was the clock. He was the clock management guy, and he was really good at it.
And I actually, I'm not joking about this. I think Brian Daboll is. There's a lot I don't like about the way he coaches, but I do think that he has an intrinsic feel for his players and what he wants them to do and what he thinks they can do. But I think he gets so wrapped up in that. It's the minutia of that catches him when he throws like time or challenges when it's ridiculously stupid to call you. You need somebody else to tell you to do that. Get somebody else that's their job is to pay attention to that. That's what they should do.
Yeah, I agree. I think I agree. It's one of those things. It's like, what are you doing? And thank God it didn't impact anything. But
right. And I guess that's the big thing, right? But if you ignore it when it didn't bite you, but it was the wrong decision, then you're bound to make the wrong decision again.
And tell me if I'm wrong, but I think in Tom Coughlin's final year as a New York Giants coach, one of the biggest criticisms of him was clock management.
Yes.
At the end of halves and at the end of games, and people were saying he's losing it. So there is a benefit to having, because there's so much going on, there is a benefit to have somebody in your ear who's just focused on the clock. So, everyone gets into this analytics crap and they hire all these people. You'd think there'd be just somebody who just says, don't do this right now. It doesn't make any sense, but who knows?
What did you think?
Maybe you can get an intern to do it. Intern to do it.
What did you think of Shane Bowen's game plan, which did show a little bit? They masked and disguised a few things here or there, which I don't know if they did that based on all the criticism or if
somebody said the defense had a players only meeting.
Saw that.
True?
I saw it, but I did not see it from the national. Who was it?
Somebody said it was from somebody who I didn't recognize the name.
It was a female. I think her name's Rooks or something. Her last name.
I didn't recognize the name. If that's true, usually though, that's the sign. Like somebody said, that's usually the sign the buzzards are circling. When you have team players only meetings, it's usually the beginning of the end.
Which, by the way, the Eagles have had 2.
Have they really?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Again, moving forward, I'm going to try to do this. I don't think I'll be very good at this. I'm going to try not to overreact to wins and losses moving forward. I am going to not try to overreact to the defense and offense. So prove it to me next week that you can do this again. So I think the defense was different this week. Question is this. Did the Giants look better? Well, we have to back up. The Giants made Spencer Rattler look good. He won his only game against the Giants. The Giants made the Eagles look not good on offense. They didn't even score in the second half. The Giants deserve a lot of credit for that, but how much of that was also on the Eagles being in a funk? I don't know. So go into Denver and show me that you can do this again, and that you don't have somebody like Spencer Rattler saying, boy, the Giants defense really isn't that confusing to me. And then he backs it up with that kind of thing. So that to answer your question, John, I'm right now, I'm trying not to overreact to stuff. So I don't want to.
So I'll say, again, I'll say this. I think you can, with what you just said, and I don't mean you, I mean everybody, with what you just said is almost a reaction to not having a reaction. If you go back to the Saints game, I think we reacted too much to the result and a little less about the reason the result happened. The Saints did not beat the Giants. And I thought Jaxson Dart made a great point. When they asked him, when he interviewed after the game, I believe it was in the locker room part, he goes, we should have won that game. He goes, there's no way, we should have won that game. And he said it again. Skattebo and I talked about the fact that we caused that game. We lost that game for everybody. And I thought that was interesting. The fact that they sit there and say, we should have won that game. That was our game. If you go back and look, you're up 14. You're driving again. We screw up. We fumble a ball that gives them a touchdown. Then you give up a big play. What didn't happen in this game? We didn't make mistakes. So when we took a lead, And even when Philadelphia came back, the Giants offense comes back.
Right.
At no point did all of a sudden one half of the team go, oh shit, this is all on us. We've got to do this because the other half's not cutting it. The Giants just gave the Saints the ball, and ultimately, imagine if they go up 21-3 in that game against the Saints.
Oh, yeah.
At that point, do you think Spencer Rattler's throwing the ball over the field? He might be trying to, but now you know that's all he's trying to do. But when you think you're about to go up and then you give him a cheap score, you give him the ball back again, and after a while, it just becomes a snowball. And then you give him again. That, to me, is a big difference than what we did last night.
Well,
we took the heart away from them.
You could even say if Skattebo doesn't fumble against the Saints, the Giants
will
win that game. I want to talk about this. What do you think about our secondary? Do you think they can be better than they've been and that this is the start of them improving? Or do you think that the investments that they have made, both draft and free agency, are not working out? I'm still an optimist here that I'm thinking that they can still come together, and Cordell Flott can be a part of this if he stays healthy, that the secondary can be an asset. I think we have to admit they have not lived up to the expectation yet, but I thought the play on, except for Dallas Goedert, and the linebackers play into that too, but I think the secondary can still be, or are you down on the secondary?
No, so it's interesting. I mean, I don't like Tyler Nubin's game. You see him sometimes.
What about against the Eagles? No different.
He's very well. He still is slow to react. He's slow to get up there. He does make tackles when he gets there sometimes, but he's dragging guys down. He's slow. He can be burned. I like Belton. I kind of feel like Belton needs to play a bit more than he is. The guy that's really kind of thrown me is Paulson Adebo. I was expecting something a little bit different, and he might still be recovering from that leg injury. Maybe he's not fully back yet, but he's been less than physical, and his situational awareness has been a bit. I thought that penalty, by the way, was a little cheap. Both guys had hands on it. He did get his hand up. He knocked the ball down. You could call that contact or whatever, but I didn't think it was as egregious as a couple of other plays that we've seen that have gotten away with. But he's not lived up to it. But I do like Flott's game. I think Javon Holland is starting to assert himself as the leader back there. And I do like Belton. I think they could come around. Phillips is the guy, though. I think Phillips is the catalyst. If he can avoid more penalties and really handle the slot, then I think we're probably in good shape. As long as our offense puts points on the board, it forces the other team to be a little more predictable in what they want to do. And that opens up our pass rush, which then makes our secondary so much more effective than if you could just do everything. Now they're coming up trying to play the run and the pass, and that's going to expose them.
I'm trying to go back and look. I heard everything you said, by the way. I'm just glancing at somebody said the other day that I'm not an active listener with you. I am always listening to you.
Oh my God, you take a lot of
listening to you. I'm trying to look at the comments and listen to all.
No, you're
I'm always listening. I don't always agree.
This is true. I don't want you to, because if you do, this would suck if we just say the same thing over and over again.
Look, this gets back to me. I'm not going to overreact to anything again. Somebody made a post earlier today, and I'm not trying to signal out any one poster, but they said, now you got to bring Dabo back, period. No, let's just wait. At this point, we got to wait to and I know this is a cop-out. We have to almost wait till the whole 17 games plays out and see, and where are we at in December, at the end of December with this? How do we feel now? How you guys feel right now will be different than how you feel in December. So it may be better, it may be worse. I doubt it'll be the same. So I don't think we can say. I guess the why I put this up, John, is this. Because I wanted to hear from you. Do you still subscribe to the belief that Dabo's got to be hover around 500, some give or take a few games or 2 games to save his job? Or do you think it's a matter of when the wins come? Do you think it's a matter?
I think there's a couple of. I think if you just put a number, it's a little. I think that's a little too arbitrary right now because of the Dart factor. What I think is this. It's just what I said last week. If you already thought we're getting rid of the guy, then you almost have to do it now in season because the connection between those two, let's just put it this way.
It's getting stronger.
When's the last time you saw a coach run over to the medical tent?
Never.
Okay.
Never. What the hell was that?
I thought he was going to punch the medical guy on the sidelines. I mean, if he was Daniel Jones and he still had his pad, he would have chucked it at the medical guy, like, go get me Dart now. Like, I don't care. Get him out here, amputate it, and put him back on the field. That's how tight these guys have become. But here's the thing, right? Let's eliminate that part of it. The Giants have 2 wins out of their first 6 games. They could have had more, but we'll just go with the 2.
They should be 3-3. They should
at least. And if you started Dart sooner, that Kansas City game might have been different. That game,
let's
because you were in that game with Russell Wilson,
right?
And that team, the Giants have never played the way they're playing right now with Wilson at quarterback. Just because even the offensive line is better, right. Just because Dart frees them up from what would be sacks with Wilson. Anyway, you beat the Chargers, which at the time was considered one, if not the best team in the AFC. That may not be true now. They've lost 2 in a row. You just beat Philadelphia, who's the defending Super Bowl champ. I'm thinking right now, if the Giants continue to progress, if they pick up wins here and there, and they're in other games, even if their guys make mistakes because they're rookies, or because you've got a lot of injuries at wide receiver, if you lose another person, you're really thin. Now you've got excuses. But if Dart plays well enough throughout and you see that connection, it's going to be really difficult for them to cut that cord.
How the hell did the Giants score 34 points with this wide receiver core? How did that Giants score 34 points against us? And it wasn't like, I mean, you could say the defense set up one of those scores, all right, that the Cordell Flott won. But it wasn't like the thing that was cool about the Giants game. And I apologize, guys, if we're rambling here, but
no,
we're excited. We're excited. We don't get to beat the Eagles that much, so we're excited. The thing that was cool about the Giants game was there were some quick strike drives, 4-play drive, being like the one where it was like the deep pass to Wandell and then the other pass to Wandell, and they're in the end zone, or the long pass to little Jordan Humphrey, and then the Dart run into the end zone. But then there were these methodical, long, there was like one touchdown drive that no play was longer than 9 yards. And usually in today's NFL, that doesn't work that well. Old school, yeah. Back in the day, you saw stuff like that. But
sure.
All coaches talk about getting chunk plays now because it's so hard to sustain drives in the NFL. The thing that was so cool about the Giants last night was the different style of drives that they had. And again, the wide receivers were little Jordan Humphrey, Wandale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt. I mean, I have a hard time seeing them sustaining this, but if they can, then we really do have a franchise quarterback. Well, I mean, if Jaxson Dart can do this with, again, we have to see, because again, if they get blown out by Denver, you and I are going to be back here next week, where we Eeyore again. We'll be like, oh Jesus.
No, I mean, we lost, and no, I agree with you. But you have to go with what's in front of you, right? You have to go with what we're talking about, what can be based on what just was. I can also go what can be opposite of what just was. Oh, next week they could get blown out, and here's all the reasons why. I mean, the point is they've put 3 games together where their offense, minus mistakes, minus turnovers, just moved down the field on people when they wanted to, and they did it with unusual packages and groupings, multiple tight ends that they're using. We went in the Saints game, we had 2 backs. We had 2 running backs. That was it. Last night, there were different times we had 2 running backs in the backfield, and they did a play where one back went in motion, Dart spins around, and then he pitches the ball to Skattebo coming back across, but it's still just a run in the middle of the field. That is, dare I say, Kansas City-esque in the way the moving around, the quarterback spins around and then just gives it to the guy going in the other direction. You need to do that to keep teams honest, even when you're just calling a straight running play. I think the Giants put together 3 games in a row. 3 games in a row of offensive, I won't say mastery because that's not the case, but certainly where they've mastered the ability to put plays and schemes together that are designed to build off each other and to keep the team on the defense on their heels. Go back to the run by Dart on the first touchdown.
His touchdown
Dart's run.
His touchdown run.
His touchdown run.
Okay.
The play before. So we have the long pass.
Right.
We call a running play, second down. He drops back. He scrambles around. He moves he goes over to the left. He comes all the way back over to the right, starts to go back to the left, and then he lets it go. He lets it go just a tad too far. But if he hits Wandell, who's in stride, that's a touchdown. The defender is trailing. There's no way he's going to catch him, but he just overthrew him. That would have been a touchdown pass right there. Dart's ability, someone brought it up, and they made it sound like, well, if it wasn't for Dart's ability, who knows what the game. I'm thinking, hold up. That's the same thing you could say about the Bills, the Ravens, any team with a mobile quarterback. That's what you can say. But guess what? That's the whole point of why you have mobile quarterbacks. If you don't have that, it makes it very easy to defend your team. If you get any kind of coverage, that quarterback who's immobile, he's done for. Dart makes it absolutely impossible for you as a defense to just go, we've covered them, we're breaking through. Now we can just leave our guys and go get him, because he's going to run around, and he's still looking, as you said, he's still looking to throw. But he also brings the run aspect. I think the Giants right now, they have something. And even though their packages aren't the players they thought it would be, no Neighbors, Slayton, who knows, and even he's not great. But I don't actually think that opens your playbook to be very sneaky, tricky. You can do whatever you want because there's no pressure to go, we really should get the ball to that guy. We've got to get the ball to that guy. You can get it to anybody you want to. There isn't one person on that Giants offense other than maybe Dart and Skattebo who are going to sit there going, I want the ball in my hands. Everybody else is just going to be doing their job. This will be, if you're a good coach, a really good coach, it's going to show that Daboll can scheme stuff through. This will be 22-esque, but with a quarterback that he wants to really build with.
Okay. The thing I want to end on, at least from me, is this: is the Dart brings something to this team that we desperately needed, and it looks like everyone was wrong about him. So if we can rewind back to the draft, I was like, I don't even know if we should take a quarterback in this draft. None of them look that great. You wanted the guy from Alabama, Milroe. Mm-hmm. Cy was like not high on Dart. A lot of people weren't high on Dart. Couple people were saying he was underrated, but not many. And this looks like it's working out. It's not just the fact that there is again, it's very early, but he's making plays. It's the attitude, the charisma, the swagger that he's bringing. The Giants are fun with him. They're interesting with him, and the national media is starting to pick up on this. I've been watching a couple of the national podcasters that cover the entire league, and they're talking about this is a really interesting and fun team to watch now with these characters that the Giants have. That's what that these guys bring. And if he's the real deal, that it's a game changer for the franchise moving forward. If he can stay healthy and he can keep on this path, it's just going to be interesting to see what happens with the coaching staff, offensive coaching staff, defensive coaching staff, head coaching staff, and what they can put around him. Because if Malik Neighbors comes back and he can be anywhere near the same player, and then they can add somebody like a Carnell Tate or a Jordan Tyson in the draft and strengthen the offensive line anymore. This bodes well for the franchise moving forward. So we'll have to see how the rest of the season plays out. My biggest takeaway from last night was just how much these two young men, Skattebo and Dart, have taken over the persona of this team. and have put it on their shoulders and are almost willing it forward. I think the defense is feeding off of them. I think obviously the offense is feeding off of them. And the head coach, as you've said, is in love with the quarterback. I just think it's we've been through such a shitty long period of time. It would be so wonderful if this all works out the way it's trending. I think we have to be careful not to make too much out of one game. It'll be very telling to see where we are in a month. If we could steal another game in Denver, or God, hopefully we can get, I don't want to even think about it, but if we could sweep the Eagles, that would be unbelievable. But if we could do something like that and keep building off of this, I just think that's the big takeaway from all of this, is just how fun last night was and how optimistic they're. Oh, again, before this game, we were as down as we could be, and now we're as high as we can be without actually winning anything significant. I mean, again, this was just a game in October, but Giants fans, it was almost like a playoff win last night. It was the fans in the state after the game that were like there when Dart and Skattebo were with the media. That was wild. I mean, the whole thing was almost like a Super Bowl celebration. With Skattebo tearing off his shirt and Dart's mom coming out and all that. It was just cool.
I was thinking this when they were interviewing the guys. Dart said a couple of things. He said, we're not immune. We hear stuff. And then they said, what did you hear? And he's like, well, we've heard all the talk. He goes, and he said Skattebo, he and Skattebo. He goes, if Skattebo and I talk, we weren't here for that. We weren't here for then. This is now. He goes, this team works its ass off. I know what we have for players. I know that we've talked about.
He said we've talked about this.
We've talked about this, about the stuff that's happened in the past is not them. This is new. And if you start looking at it, there is a lot that's changed. I mean, Johnson, second-year guy. Wandell's his fourth year with the team, fourth or fifth year with the team. You've got a rookie quarterback. You've got a rookie running back. Hyatt's in a couple years here, but again, who knows what we're going to get from him. There's a lot of young talent on this team that they can build around, and the leader is unquestionably Jaxson Dart. There was something that he said, in a way that was interesting. It wasn't putting down anybody else. It wasn't putting down Wilson. It wasn't putting down any other piece of that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was clearly talking about him leading the team, and he does it on the field. He goes, I do it through the way I play, the way I talk, the way he goes, and that's my job. And I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was really interesting because this is a guy who took over for a seasoned veteran, a guy at one point who was considered a potential Hall of Fame quarterback, in Russell Wilson. You took over. It's almost as if, quite frankly, and I do want to ask you this before we go, and because we can talk about it in the future.
Yeah.
I have a feeling at this point in time, in my personal opinion, that it's time the Giants move on from Russell Wilson as the backup quarterback. I think he's really just a guy that's there now. Yes, he plays the good soldier and he's the rah-rah because that's his brand. I don't think it means anything
last night.
I don't think it means anything to the team. I don't think Jameis Winston, on the other hand, I think the players love that dude. And he has a connection with Dart. And I think Wilson just doesn't bring anything to the table anymore. This is Dart's team. And I think when you move on from a guy, you really don't want the other guy just there. And I think he's taking up a spot. I want a guy who's going to be in his ear, and that's Jameis Winston. I want him to help him calm him down, get him up, whatever he's got to do. Winston would be that. Wilson's he's a corporate shill. That's what he is.
It's too bad that his last start was so bad, because I still think Cincy might have looked at him had he not been so dreadful.
Instead, they get Joe Flacco.
I think maybe not, but he was so bad in his last game. And I agree that if, in a way, he's not coming back next year, and Jameis is going to be the backup quarterback next year because he's a 2-year contract. So he's under contract. Jameis will be here next year.
He's the backup quarterback.
Yep. So it's almost like, and I almost feel bad. Look, at the very least, what they brought in was somebody that Dart can he did learn things from. I think he did learn things from Russell Wilson. He learned how to prepare like a pro. He even Jackson's talked about that. So I think he brought that, and he continues to bring that to him. I do worry about Jaxson is going to get hurt at some point and miss some time this year because of the way he plays. So the question is, do you want to come in? But there was like that pass that Russell Wilson threw in the game. That was bad. I mean, at least it wasn't Jameis going the other way. That's the thing with Jameis. It's either a touchdown one way for the other team or for us. So I agree. And I think other people have said that. I actually I've never been a big fan of Russell Wilson, but I admired the way he came in and handled himself this summer. And I feel bad for the way this is ending for him. I don't like, I think this is hurting his reputation as a NFL ball player at the way his career is. So some of this is sad for me to see him like this, but I don't see I would almost be tempted to like let him go. But I think the Giants are also a little bit worried about injury issues with Jaxson, the way he plays. Jaxson has left a number of games. He's come right back in, but he's except for the preseason game that he didn't come back in. But there's been 3 games now he's had to go into the tent. So and he's just starting. So there is moving forward. Whoever's Jackson's backup is going to be a very important player because just the way Jaxson plays.
But you could move him to the 3. You could make him the emergency, and that would
be humiliating. That would be humiliating for him. I know you're not thinking about that kind of thing.
Well,
I think about
there's
that.
$10 million for you to get over it. So I mean, I'm like, they didn't worry about it with Daniel Jones. Yeah. They kicked him to like you're going scout team, and he's like, yeah, I want out of here.
What if Daniel Jones wins the Super Bowl MVP this year?
Let's not worry about that. So I mean that I think we talked a lot. There's a lot going forward. There's the Giants are going to get a little bit of a break, which is good. There's some things to think about. Josh Azudu should be looking like he could start practicing, I would think, and maybe they might have some reinforcements coming on the offensive line if they need it. We don't know
how serious his injury is. We have no
That's
idea.
true too. We don't even really know what the deal is.
We don't know what's going on with him.
Evan Neal, at some point, what's the point of carrying a guy you don't plan on ever This is how bad it is. You don't even make him active when you might want to play him on special teams like field goal block, so you can take one of your starters off so they don't have to. You're not even dressing him for that. Instead, you dress a 4th tight end who doesn't even get in the game.
Look, John, they made James Hudson an active, and he's the $12 million swing tackle.
That was bad.
That means Evan Neal is even farther down. So if the Giants really were offered a trade for Evan Neal and Shane turned it down, that was what was reported, in the summer.
I have a hard time. You know what? And this might have happened.
It might have been like a 7th round pick or a pick swap.
Well, it might have been, but I suspect it was probably more an agent throwing that out there to try, knowing that his guy's he's not starting. Maybe. And I think, and by the way, if Josh Azudu doesn't get hurt, I have a feeling that at the very least, Daboll would have been arguing for Azudu to be on the team.
Azudu was playing great, yeah. But the problem now is if Azudu comes back, he's going to be so rusty. Do they want to mess with what? Like again.
So are you convinced
Azudu has a chance to still be on the team next year? I don't think Neal will be.
No, definitely not. He's not even on contract.
The problem with Azudu is he keeps getting hurt too. So that's why I'm drafting a guard. I'm not counting on Azudu next year because Azudu can't stay on the field. So.
Sure. For next year.
Did we miss any questions before we get off here?
I've been looking through here. The only one I did see, there was a question about pass rush we had talked about earlier. I don't think the Giants did anything different other than I think they purposely tried to contain, keep Jalen Hurts in the pocket. When they wanted to bring pressure, they did blitz guys. Now, I will say, if you will go back to the first series, on a 3rd down pass that gets completed to Goddard, but it's short of the 1st down. Who's in coverage? Brian Burns. Brian Burns was covering Goddard on that time and makes the tackle on the play short of the first down. So they were changing things up. They were hiding who was coming and who wasn't coming, but they did bull rush quite often. They didn't scheme outside blitzes. They bull rushed and kept him contained.
Burns did have a sack on that stunt in the inside, but again, people got to keep this in mind. The Eagles, one of the reasons the Eagles are the defending Super Bowl champions is their offensive line is awesome. They have an awesome offensive line coach, and you have to keep that. And the officials were allowing them to get a head start last night. So it's really easy to pass block when you can get a second advantage over your opponent. When you were saying Lane Johnson was
he jumps. I mean, he jumps every time. His right foot drops back every time.
Quarterback when the officials are letting you set up before the player can even move.
It's ridiculous.
So again, I don't want to harp on any negative. My biggest negative last night, I think, I was getting frustrated with Dallas Goddard kept catching passes. And I have to admit, like I said earlier, I was getting nervous when the Eagles scored 2 back-to-back touchdowns and took the lead. And I was like, oh, Christ, because it seemed a little bit like the New Orleans game where we came up so hot and then kind of faded. But the touchdown before halftime was huge. And then obviously the second half was fun. And I just want to finish. My last thing was, again, one of the things I'm going to go back and look at, I'm going to watch the whole game, but I'm really going to go back and watch the last 6 minutes of the game because I love that just the running out the clock drive. I know that makes me like a weird.
No, that was awesome. I mean, we dominated.
I love being able to run out the clock on a team like that. To me, that's just awesome. And to do that against the Eagles of all teams. And I think the my last comment is I'm going to be fascinated by the Giants Eagles game in Philadelphia in a couple of weeks. That to me is going to be fascinating. Can we compete and keep it close and possibly steal a game in Philadelphia? If we did that would be, if we sweep the Eagles, John, that would be gigantic. I'm not expecting that, but that would be gigantic.
I'm gonna focus more on the Denver game. I think that's a big one. Again, Dayball's had a great record with the Giants against AFC teams. We've done very well against the AFC. This would be a really big one, and getting Denver off their game with the Jets, overseas coming back. They got games with their division rivals later. So again, the Giants aren't necessarily on their radar as the big game to line it up for. So this is a time, if they're going to stack, you got to start doing it, and this is where it'd be. Right. To steal a line from Star Trek 2, which is not a big line, it's not a con line, it's not any of those lines.
The only really good Star Trek movie.
Okay. I like a couple of them, but anyway, the line of Spock's talking to Lieutenant Savick, he said sauce for the goose. Yes. And he said odds will be even, but that's not the point. Sauce for the goose for me was 2 things last night. First, it was Barkley. All the bullshit around Barkley, all Barkley's. By the way,
documentary.
Congratulations on releasing the documentary on the night that you get your ass kicked. It was a great look for you. And the other one was one other former Giant that did exactly what he did when he played for the Giants, and that was on the goal line run.
Oh, Torrey Jackson. We didn't talk about
Jackson.
That.
I mean, he pulled Deonte Banks from blocking on the kick return last week. He basically comes through and puts not a hand. He comes through, he's just kind of there, and then he doesn't even try to stop Skattebo from getting in the end zone. That dude, I don't know how he stayed in the league.
I don't know how he's still in the league.
He makes Deion Sanders look like Steve Atwater when it comes to tackling. That's how bad Adoree Jackson
is. And again, you're probably going to disagree with me. He makes Deonte Banks look good. He's so timid with. I mean, he's just awful. He's been like that. He's been like that for a few years now. So we had that really bad stretch with Deonte last year where he was doing that. But Adoree's got a. This is an ongoing thing with Adoree now. So,
and this, I mean, we're talking years. Yeah, sauce for the goose. This has been years for Adoree Jackson. That was That was just, I mean, can you imagine you go into the film room with your teammates and they're like, yeah. Everybody else is like, dude, you had like half your secondary is limping earlier in the game.
But I don't want, again, I do want to emphasize this. Skattebo, they didn't want to hit. They didn't want anything to do with Skattebo.
Well,
they didn't want to.
Adoree didn't want anything to do with anybody, but yeah.
They didn't want to. They didn't. By the end of the game, they were like, they were done with him.
Well, you saw Jordan Davis talking to Skattebo in between. I don't know if it was in between the quarter or just in between. There was a timeout, and then they came back. The two of them had been talking in between, and it certainly seemed like and Jordan Davis is a big dude. He's talking to Skattebo, and they saw each other after the game, and a lot of guys have a lot of respect for him because he just goes right at it. I mean, he's coming in there full speed. He's going to hit you. He's not just going to take the yard. He's taking a yard and a half.
And look at him next to Fitzpatrick,
right?
Who's quarterback.
Right.
He's not a big guy. I had to tell my wife that's a quarterback, and she's like, "That's a quarterback." And I'm like, yeah, Skattebo's not that big. So, all right, on that note, we should go because everyone's dropping off. And
we're getting. It's time for me to.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give a shout out. My night did not go the way I had hoped. For parts of it, the game was awesome. Unfortunately, my brother was working on a hot water tank that exploded. So he ended up in the hospital last night. So
what is going on with you,
dude? It is rough. Shout out, prayers up for my mother-in-law who's about to start some stuff. But I don't
what
really
is
want to
going
get into
on with you. I mean, this
family members are tough. When you have a lot of family, shit happens. But it seems to be coming. They say in threes. I didn't know it was 3 squared. So
sure, Lord. Okay.
So, With that being said, subscribe. We appreciate it. We'll do another one in the near future. We're going to take a few days off here and enjoy ourselves for everything.
I'll get some sleep and I'll sound more lucid.
There you go. But we did this after a Giants win against the Philadelphia frickin' Eagles.
Yes.
So there we go. Finally, we can say that.
And we're going to mess them up in a couple of weeks again.
Nice. You heard it. You heard it here first. All right, folks. So appreciate it. We'll catch you again real soon. And good luck and enjoy this weekend. No pressure now. It's just everybody else is playing. So we'll catch you soon.